This is our Ford F-250 Super Duty. And sometimes routine maintenance doesn't go far enough. Sometimes you get into issues where you have to go deep. We're going to get in deep on this one. Let's get into it. Now this truck is part of our, I guess, our work cars. This thing has to earn a living. It has to make money. It has to run every single day. And most of the time it's towing a trailer with a skid steer on the back of it. This thing's designed to work. And for the most part, Ford designed it that way. And it's been pretty much, other than routine maintenance, putting brakes and things like that, I've had to put a starter on it. Things that just normally wears out. It's been pretty decent. But I noticed when I was in a bind recently, I started trying to, I had to put it in four-wheel drive to get myself out of a bind where I was on a pretty steep grade with a trailer on. And I noticed just a popping and clicking, and I got under there to change the oil, and I found, it's hard to see, I may not be able to see it at all, this universal joint's out, and it's also leaking around that seal. And I can see maybe even this bearing in here is bad. But I don't know. I've got to get into the meat of it. I've got to get these calipers off here, get the rotor off of it, and there's rust everywhere. This four-wheel drive locking mechanism has to come out. May have to take these steering rods off. I've got to get that whole drive shaft out. Of course, it's an axle shaft, not a drive shaft. But I've got to replace the U-joint. For some reason, the U-joint that I ordered does not have a grease fitting. I don't like that. Most of the replacements have grease fittings. And also has a dust boot that goes inside the axle housing itself. And this is your most important piece that you have to put in. This is a vacuum seal that goes inside. Has to be pressed in perfectly. It has to be pressed on the shaft perfectly. So, of course, you can't do it with any kind of press. You have to buy a special tool just for these Ford trucks. And this is for the 2015 year F-250. And it sets over top of the axle and drives it onto the axle. Then when you get it driven onto the axle, you drive the whole axle and the seal into the housing with this same part. It's got a little vent hole in it to vent air as you're hammering it in. But of course, I also didn't have any giant snap ring pliers. I got to have some long snap ring pliers to get in there to the snap ring that holds the axle in. So I went with these Astro 13-inch internal external snap ring pliers, and the number is 94222. They look a lot like Snap-on or Mac. I've got a set of Macs over here in the drawer that look identical to these, but they're not snap ring pliers, they're needle nose. So I had to have these anyway. I went ahead and pulled the trigger on them. Astro makes decent tools. Of course, it's made out of 100% raw Chinesium, which they may bend in half just as soon as I reach in there. But South Main Auto, he uses Astro tools all the time. He seems to like them. So we'll go with it. We've got our, what we think we need. We've got our seal, axle seal or hub seals. And right now I'm just going to wet everything down with WD-40 and start trying to take this stuff apart. Well, it's already off to a bad start. I struggled getting that caliper off. They were glued in there pretty good, these bolts were. I got them out. Now, of course, I can't get the rotor off. I've been hitting it with a Devlo hammer on the back. It's kind of rusted on there pretty good. And I want to use the pneumatic hammer, but I'm only going to hit it here on the front. I'm not going to hit the finished surface on it because it's pretty good. I'm going to put it back on. The brakes are pretty good. Probably could use some brakes, but they got a little bit of life left in them. I've got another set ready to go on, so I'll put them on a day or two. Should do it while I'm in here, but I'm not going to because I kind of want to use those up. I don't want to use them into the rotor, but this is already a rotor we just bought. We just put brakes on it not long ago. That shows you how much these things are working whenever they're pulling a load, because it's really probably not even a year old. I want to get the hammering on this and try to get it loose from here. I don't want to hammer with this camera on, but I am just going to hit around the face of it here, maybe around the edges here a little bit, but not on the surface. Okay, so here's where we're at. I finally Well, I was talking away a minute ago and the battery went dead. I've been hammering around on this. I've heated it. And finally I thought if I put a bolt back here with a flat piece of steel, I might be able to gently work it off. And that's been working. So far I've got it almost all the way off. And the flat steel's not leaving any marks on the back. I've been hitting it with a dead blow hammer and it's not doing nothing. I've been beating around the edges of it with the air hammer. But I wouldn't really recommend this. I don't know how strong these ears are, but I've not been putting a lot of pressure on it. I've just been gently putting pressure on it and slowly turning that nut, and it's been pushing it off. I've nearly got it off right now. A couple more turns and it should be off there. But I spent way too long fooling with this thing when I should be in there into the meat of the project. Let me see if I can get this the rest of the way off here. I got the screws out and I had to go around it with a screwdriver gently because it's got little pins that it looks like it lines it up. So you have to gently get it out of there. It's also got an O-ring you don't want to destroy because I don't have a replacement for it. There's the O-ring. And this is your four-wheel drive locking mechanism. And somehow this thing uses vacuum and also has a manual lock. If you look on top of your housing here, this is a vacuum line. You've got your ABS line that comes down to here. Then you've got this vacuum line that goes over to a port, and then it goes up to the hood, and there's a relay up there that pulses this and turns it on whenever you lock your four-wheel drive in on the high side. But without locking your hubs in, it'll automatically give you four-wheel drive. I don't claim to know how all that crap works, but next thing I want to do is I want to try to get these 10mm bolts out so that I can leave this eye in this hub. The hub feels pretty good. Leave this eye in this hub and then just lay it all the way out of the way. Got another one right there I gotta take out. And I can lay this line, this wire, all the way back out of the way without taking it apart. I hate to take that out of there and ruin it and have to buy a whole new hub. Couple more little bumps and it was off. Somebody should invent a tool that does this, that maybe spreads out across both of them and pushes, because this seemed to work really well. After I've beat and banged and pried and tried everything, this thing just walked it right off. I turned it a little, spun it, turned it a little more and spun it, and it just walked it right off there, no problems at all, even after using heat and everything. But that's a pretty clever little trick. I'll try to remember that. Next thing I'm going to do is pull this locking hub assembly out. And we'll use a T27 Torx. It's a little bit big ratchet for what I'm doing, but it'll work. Next we got to get this lock ring buried deep down in there. I'm going to use these Astro outside lock ring pliers. I wouldn't say that it was the easiest thing to get out of there. Those Astros, I don't know. They look like they were damaged when I got them. They were bent like that when I got them. Like somebody's returned them and decided they were junk. So I'm not impressed so far. Next thing I got to do is get these 4 nuts off the back of this big hub. And see what that does. It's going to be hard to get in there. You got to get in from the back. Let's see what happens. See if I can get that out of there. It'll be another big fight, I'm sure. Now I've got all the bolts off the back of this hub. Time to get this hub off of here. It's probably going to be fun. Those things weld themselves in. It is a Texas truck, so maybe it's not going to be too horrible. It ain't working. Huh. I'm going to have to get in a double hammer. It's moving sort of. I'll get a little farther, I'll come back. Got it off there. I've got that off. That was rough. I've got enough of the cord loose where I can lay it on the floor without stretching it too bad. Now, got to get this axle out here. I'm going to straighten that wheel a little. But that is the seal that holds the vacuum. This little chamber right here. There should be a hole right there. Up in there, there's a hole that this vacuum comes through. And this creates a vacuum chamber, and that is what works that four-wheel drive system. There's also an O-ring on the back of that bearing, and I'll have to take that off and clean it up and I got a new O-ring for that. I don't have a new O-ring for this, so I'll clean it up and put it back on. Hopefully it still works. But I've got to get all the rust and goo out of this, get this face cleaned off, but I'll get this axle out first. But I can't take the axle out until I straighten it up. Then I've got to put a John Mangus pry bar in and get back in there and pry and get that U-joint to push this whole entire seal out with it. So we'll do that next. What I'm supposed to be prying against here. I'm struggling. I forgot what to pry against. This ain't easy. Is it moving? Feels like it is. Gee. That sucked really bad. Oh man. There it be. That's pretty chowdered. Look at that. The cup's all missing here. So it's done. I've got to get that axle out of there and Now comes getting the cups apart. Ooh, look at that. I'll have to sand that or put a wire wheel on or something so it'll go back through that new seal. She's nasty. Everywhere but here. I thought this was leaking, but apparently it hasn't been. Well, it's coming apart slowly. That one was all chowdered up. Still got to get that cup out. I've got a press, but I was going to try it this way. Old school. I felt it break loose. There she goes. There's one. Well, that's three. Gee. Come loose. Dust cup or something holding it. As far as it's gonna go with that joint. I'll have to get some pliers, I guess. There it is. And she's needly. One side of it, that one's good. It was not so good. This one's eat into it. I must have broke the thing off somewhere. Just getting a little bit of rust out. I cleaned all this up already. Got all the rust off of it. I don't want to make this bigger. We want the cups to fit in there nice. One clip in. There it is. There's some line. Got a mess. Yeah, all the clips are in. And all the way, I believe. Yeah. Looking good. That one there looks like it might be moved just a little. It's in there though. It's a little stiff that way. Feels pretty good though. Well, that thing's together. Now we got to put this seal on here. They look a little different. This one has a dust ring that doesn't look like it comes off. This one does not have a dust ring. So I don't know if it's a difference in design or what. Get set up here. This is the new seal. I cleaned all the rust and stuff off of this just with a wire brush. You can't just drive this on. You've got to have the one tool that you have to have that does nothing else. This big tool here. This is what drives your seal on, drives it on straight. That doesn't act like it's going. It's going. Let's see if I can get this in the vise a little different. There's a seal on here. Get that out of the way. It's got to come out. This is the important seal. This keeps the vacuum too. I have new ones. Just a rubber ring. Clean it up with a little brake clean. A little grease. Keep it from seizing the next time so we don't have so much trouble getting it out. Put it on all the surfaces. Now get our rubber ring on there. Make sure it goes into the groove, sinks up in there. It feels like it has. I got hopefully all the dirt out of it. Now that's on there. Now the next move is to get the axle in. You're ready. Open wide. Well, that's as far as it's gonna go. There we go. Gee. First time. Okay, I felt it sink into the splines. Now this is where our big tool comes in again. This goes like this. When you bottom out, you're in. There it is. She's back in. That's been a while. Now it's time to take a little break. Boy, it's in there. Now I got to put the bolts back on it. Now we got to try to work this lock ring back on our inner axle shaft here. Well, there went my light. I think it's on there to find something to push it with. It's not on yet. Pull this axle out. I don't believe it's on. Who knows? I think it went that now. I believe it's on there. Yeah. I believe that's it. Put a little grease on the gears and a little bit on the gasket and a little bit of silicone carney on that seal that was on there. I didn't have a replacement. Now I gotta find, I guess it's this hole right here that this little pin goes in. Come on. So much for that. This may only go one way. There we go. It's in there, and just put the Torx head screws back in it. Time to put the rotor back on. A little bit of brake clean. It's covered with WD-40. And fingerprints. You don't want either one of those on your rotor. We were pressing it earlier and it never left a mark on it when we were pressing it, so that worked out good. Now I've got to swing this monster back up on here. I cleaned this up a little bit. There's a little bit of grease on there. Hopefully that'll keep it from seizing back on there the next time. Gee. Those are horrible. Okay, that's on there good and solid. Got more fingerprints on it. All over it. Let me get a light. You're not seeing what I'm doing anyway. Swing this caliper back on here. Find my bolts. I'm coming off of there. Pads just fell loose. There we go. There it is. Let's tighten this up. Well, there it is. It's not necessarily how to do it, but how I did it. So don't forget to hook your ABS signal wire back up. I just put the bolts back in it. Caliper's back on. Be sure when you put all this stuff back together, torque it to your manufacturer's specifications. Make sure you put everything back to the right torque. And this thing is all together, ready to put the wheel on it, and I'm probably going to quit for tonight. This has been a rough day. It's took me most of the evening. I don't know what time it is. It's kind of late, but it's all on there. And this is just one side. I'm not going to do the other side until I know that I need to do it. I have all the parts now, and I know what to do. I've never done this before. But you have to have this. That's a specialty tool. You really need some big heavy duty lock ring pliers. And all this other garbage is stuff that I've used and failed to get the rotor off and of course get the axle out. But there's ways to do it. There's lots of ways on the internet to do it. I looked at several videos and ended up coming up with my own way to get that rotor off. I used that little bolt back there in that bracket and pressed it right off, and it worked out great. And I'll probably do that more times. Don't forget to take your lug nut off that you got holding your rotor on before you put the wheel on. And this should be done. I guess I'm going to quit for today. And I'm filthy. I do appreciate you guys hanging out and watching with me. Anything you want to see us do, anything like working on this truck or different vehicles, let me know. And come back, join us the next time, and please subscribe. We need that more than anything. We're trying to get that 1,000 subscribers, and only you can help. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings when you do it. It helps me. So appreciate it, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Stay clean, everybody.